We haven't been able to find dates for the subcommittee meetings that worked for everyone. The first round, everyone responded, and it just was like we couldn't find a date or time that would work for more than two people. And then Pratiksha followed up, but hasn't really gotten a lot of responses from folks. So we're gonna try to get something on calendar today, like while we have everyone here or have people here. But I want to make sure we give a chance for people to show up so that we have as many people to talk to about that as possible. So before Pratiksha talks to you about that, I'm gonna give you a reminder, summary slash overview of Percent for the Arts funding so far. Because this is the first of two, we're back to budget planning season, you guys. I feel like we just wrapped up budget planning season, but we're starting the next budget planning season. So this will be Percent for the Arts funding for fiscal year 27-28. So starting July 1st of next year, 2027, running through June 30th, 2028. Where is the time going? It's crazy. So to kind of set the stage for that, I'm gonna share screen, show you a table to kind of remind you of where all the funding has gone so far, and take the opportunity to give you kind of a brief update on where those projects are at. So um, I just sent you a request to share screen, Pratiksha. Thank you. I'm telling you, these new Zoom updated a few months ago and the controls are slightly different and it's still throwing me off. I've made some embarrassing mistakes in the last few months because of it. And it makes me feel my age. Okay, so here's the table. Let me see. Can I put all of that? Can you all see the whole capital art table?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, great. So these are all the projects that we've allocated funding for so far that are strictly capital art, right? So permanent physical art. The first one was the My Rochester Murals project, which created murals at Avenue D Art Center, Edgerton Art Center, Lincoln Library, and School 19. That total for that for the four was 100,000, and that has been complete now for a couple of years. A couple of years? Yeah. Locus Focus, the Mosaic Project, which is going in at School 22. There's $120,000 for that project, and we are set to install it. Fingers crossed. Keep the good energy coming. We're set to install it this month. You may remember that there is also an oral history component to this project where Almeda Whitus worked with Dr. Kate Mariner out of U of R to record many people's stories of growing up in the Upper Falls Konya neighborhood. And those recordings have been complete. And we're working with the Central Library to have those recordings archived through their local history division and available online through their oral history archives that they have. And it's kind of exciting because they already have at least one, maybe two oral history sets that are specific to neighborhoods. So I like that this is contributing to it, and potentially as a city, as a region, we kind of grow that. I like the idea that we have continue to make archives by neighborhood. I'm going to share with you all the team that did the recordings did a preliminary website to share the transcriptions of all the oral history recordings. So I'll share that with you all because it's a beautiful website and it's a good precursor to having the full things archived through the library. But the point is, sorry, that the mosaic is going to go in. There's a mosaic artist from Buffalo doing the mosaic work, but it's also going to have QR code so that you can listen to the stories when you're at the mosaic work. Okay, and then 125,000 for the city and county arts and culture plan. As a reminder, there are three other contributors to that plan, funding wise. The county, of course, because it's a county plan, not just city. Rochester Area Community Foundation and Farish Foundation. We are hoping, this is another fingers crossed. It looks like we're going to release the first draft this fall. We'll have a second round of engagement and then incorporate any revisions that we come to from that round of engagement. And then, of course, release the final plan. Those of you that are on the steering committee, I'm going to be reaching out soon to set the final steering committee meeting for that. The garbage truck art wraps project, there's $100,000 for that project, and we are looking to release the RFQ for that this fall or winter. And the way that we're going to do it is have it be a release for qualifications. And then there'll be a list of finalists that are notified and then asked to create an actual visual proposal for the art wraps. They'll be paid for their time, a stipend for that design. And then those works will be reviewed, and one or more artists will be selected for art wraps. We're still trying to figure out if it's going to be two, three, or four garbage trucks for that. We'll keep you posted. And then public art maintenance assessment. This is one of the things that you all voted on last budget cycle. We're tentatively saying we're going to need 40,000 for that. We have a total of 95,000 set aside for public art maintenance in general. So we could go a little more than that. We're still trying to really fine tune how much, what's the right amount for that based on other assessments nationally. We're intending to release an RFP to find a consultant for that next year. And then we have, I'll skip to the very bottom, remaining funding for public art maintenance after the assessment will be around 55, depending on how much we need out of the full 95. And then this big line here, the 233,000, that was before last budget cycle planning discussion, unprogrammed. These are what were the nominees that you all voted on, that were in order of how many got the most votes. So right now, we're planning on next year doing a feasibility assessment, which that sounds more formal than it really is. It just means looking at, in particular, like a mural on Lyle Avenue, it's really figuring out there's three city-owned properties. Which one is the best, the most feasible for, are any of the three feasible for a mural, et cetera. So it's just us looking at it and really, and then starting to talk to and connect with respective departments for those properties, estimate the costs to understand how many of the projects we can achieve with that funding. Um, okay, I'm going to move on, but are there any questions about any of the capital art projects before I move on to other projects?
Oh, wait, this is Thomas. I have a question.
Hey, yeah.
Hi. Sorry, I'm a little late. Um, are all of these projects listed here on the left column? Is this all this? No, it's not right. Is this all this cycle?
No, this is from the very
No.
beginning. This is a
So it might
summary
be a
of,
good idea just after each project to like put in parentheses what the year is.
okay, yeah,
Yeah, just to keep us sort of understanding that, I guess.
that's great. It's helpful to hear because we have a different table that has it broken down by fiscal year, but I was worried that that was like too much and too confusing.
Um,
But if it's helpful to know year, I can definitely add that
yeah,
back in.
yeah, thanks.
No problem. Antonietta?
Hello, good afternoon. So you mentioned that the QR code for the Mosaics project to listen, is that going to be captioned or have any kind of subtitles or translators?
That's a good question, and we should
Um,
work to make sure that it is accessible. Absolutely.
yes.
Thank
I
you,
appreciate that.
Antonietta.
Thank you.
Do you know, does the Central Library Oral History Archive, is it accessible? Do you know offhand? I can look into it.
That is a fantastic question, too.
Okay, I'm going to
Would
look
you like
into
me to
it,
look
and
into it or
yeah, I'll look into it, and I might actually connect you with
fine?
the local history folks too on that because it should be accessible. Absolutely.
I agree. I mean, we have over 41,000 people from ages 0 to 79 with deaf and hard of hearing loss. So that'll be helpful in
Thank
this city.
you. Yeah. Thanks, Antonietta.
Thank you.
I can speak
Heather?
briefly. This is BJ. I don't oversee the central library, but I'm with the library, and I know we had talked about some of that today. The library is in the process of doing an accessibility upgrade to our websites, generally speaking. And we're also looking at trying to make sure that we are including captions and things. So I will pass on that note to the individual who is in charge of special collections. And I think I'll be meeting with him tomorrow, so that'll be easy. With regard to captioning, I'm not positive, but we'll try to make sure we get a response.
Thank you, BJ.
Thank you.
Okay.
Heather?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Can you hear me? It's Annette.
Oh, I can barely hear you, Annette.
I have a new headset, so um, does this work
I
any
can,
better?
I'm turning my volume up so I can hear you. So I can hear you, yeah.
All right, sorry about that. I was wondering about, you said the master plan, the steering committee will see a draft? Is that what, or
No,
will the AC3 committee see a draft before it goes out?
the steering committee, the purpose is to talk about the process, not necessarily give feedback on the plan, right? We have other outlets and avenues for that, like one-on-one stakeholder interviews and focus groups and all that. So the purpose of the last steering committee meeting will be to help us help shape the second round engagement. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay. Okay. There's one project that is both capital and non-capital art. You might remember I'm centering youth, which started out, was born out of an idea for a Bloomberg Public Art Challenge, I think was the grant application. They don't do it every year. Public Art Challenge grant application that you all helped shape and give feedback on. And so Teen Empowerment, Flower City Art Center, and Wall Therapy were selected to work on this. And the idea is to create one art park per quadrant. And the first location is going to be at Ryan R Center. And there's $250,000 a percent for the arts funding for this. Of that, 175 is for capital art and 75 is for programming, so arts classes, and potentially, non-permanent art or performing arts. So we've completed the first phase of that. There's teen empowerment, working with youth organizers, did a lot of youth engagement at the R Center to hear from youth what they want to see at the R Center in terms of capital art and potentially programming. So we have an early capital art concept. The next phase is this fall and winter. There's going to be arts classes there, and Wall Therapy is going to continue and kind of broaden engagement around the capital art idea to really further develop it into like a full capital art proposal with a budget. Um, we had there was the youth involved in the engagement for first phase, did a presentation to the mayor as kind of a progress check, and also Assemblymember Bronson, because Assemblymember Bronson has nominated this project for $1 million state funding amount, which will go a long way towards completing the capital art project if we can get it. Because one of the ideas that has come up has been an amphitheater, an outdoor amphitheater at Ryan R Center, which would be awesome, but that can be a very costly thing. So yeah, so that's the latest on that. I'm going to go into non-capital next. Is there any questions about centering youth before I move on to Arts Bloom? Okay. Okay, so with non-capital art, we did have 9,000 go to the project How We Rock, which was the Communications Bureau led project to select local photographers to take pictures of events here in Rochester, which culminated in a show in the City Hall Link Gallery. And that's been completed. That was a couple years ago. We are entering our fourth round of Arts Bloom. The amounts have been for the four rounds, it's 100,000, 170, it was 100,000 again, and then this year it's 150. That was how much you all suggested and kind of expressed you wanted to go for. So that is I'm going to stop sharing now because that's kind of our background and basis for discussion for this year. I'm going to pause there though, because now I think all the latecomers are here. And so I'm going to turn it over to Pratheeksha to talk about setting times for the subcommittee meetings.
Yeah, thank you, Heather. I'm just gonna put some times which I shared with you on email as well for the Vision Subcommittee and the Promotion Subcommittee. Um, I think for the Vision Subcommittee, only James and Jason are here. So yeah, um, that is for the Vision Subcommittee. If you can let me know if any of those times work for you.
Oh, did I? Sorry, I had to quickly take a quick phone call. Did I miss something?
Oh, yeah. So I'm just trying to look for available times for the Vision Subcommittee and for the Promotion Subcommittee times. And
Okay.
and the Vision Subcommittee is only going to meet once. So this is like a 4-hour meeting. So I know it's kind of a long one. So yeah.
Let me
Uh,
look at the email.
I can just share, I'm on vacation that entire time,
Oh,
which is why I didn't respond with availability for those dates.
yeah. Okay.
Okay. Pratheeksha, do you want to go ahead and put together alternate times, later
Hmm.
times for that subcommittee?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay.
Okay, I'll do that. And I think then for the Promotion Subcommittee, these are, I already have, I think Annette's and Shawnee's availability. So, according to their availability, I'm just adding a couple other times for the Promotion Subcommittee. I think I just needed, like, Jason, if you could let me know your availability, and then I'll follow up with Derek too.
Yeah, can you resend me that email? I don't see it. Is it, did you send it to my work email or did you send it to my private one?
I think I sent it to the Gmail one.
Yeah, I don't see it in the Gmail one at the moment. I'm looking through my Gmails.
Okay.
So let's see, and then I'll answer. I'll get back to you with all that. I'm
Okay.
pretty my availability is pretty open, but
Okay.
I'll send that over to you. Sorry about that.
Oh no, no, no. It's just easier to like do this and for like over a call than,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I know it
What
can
I mean,
get
what
lost. So
if you can just send me the dates right now? I could just do it over right
yeah,
here.
I just put it in the chat so you
Oh,
can,
perfect.
yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, great. Pratheeksha, if you want to find other times for the Vision
Hmm.
Subcommittee, and then you can post them in the chat towards the end of the meeting,
Hmm.
maybe that could work too.
Hmm.
It really is, it is so much easier. I don't know how many of you all coordinate group meetings regularly, but I like to say it's like a quarter to a third of my job. And it's just so much easier to get people when you're in a meeting to get their availability and figure out a common time, especially because Doodle Poll stopped being free. You have to pay for it. And so if you find yeah, they got us hooked on it. This is what they do. And then they start charging. So if you come upon, I know, thank you, Antonietta. If you happen upon a similar app that's free, please let us know because that's why the first time we tried to find a date, I used like a Google form, a survey because I couldn't use Doodle at that point. Anyway, okay. So let's talk about the next fiscal year. So our estimate for fiscal year 27-28, which feels weird to say, 27-28, is $198,000, so close to 200. It's close to what we have for this year. Um, I want to make sure you all know this is a tentative amount and that it always has to get approved in the budget cycle and the budget hearings next year, but we can start envisioning what we want to do with it. The lowest that we've had, or close to the lowest. Um, but to be honest with you, I think everyone's been bracing for budget impacts. I was kind of bracing to have it be even lower than this, so I'm excited for this amount. I think for the sake of discussion, because we are backlogged with how many capital art projects we talked about last budget year, I think I'd prefer to not nominate any new capital art projects this year and instead just figure out how much we want to put towards Arts Bloom, and then potentially talk about a couple things with Arts Bloom that have come up as potential changes, like ideas from you all, if that sounds okay to everyone. Does anyone have any questions about that, or comments or concerns or anything? Okay. Okay, great. So I guess the first amount, or the first the first thing is amount. Um, Does anyone want to throw out ideas? You saw the range of what we've allocated to Arts Bloom. It's been anywhere between 100 and $170,000. Does someone want to share any feelings about how much of the 198 they'd like to see go to Arts Bloom?
Um, the Arts Bloom for this next coming year, and we've been working kind of 100 to a little more every other, but we're not doing projects for this next coming year, so allocating more makes sense
Okay, yeah.
than like 150 to 175.
Okay.
I would definitely not want to see it reduce
Yeah.
its current level.
Yeah, I also think 150 to 175 is good. I just want to keep in our minds about the maintenance. Um, just to make sure we're staying true to that. um, I mean, it seems like it's money in the pot, high money in the sky thing, but when we're going to need that, we're going to really need it. So just to be, cautious that there's a future down the road, and we are going to need that money. So
Thank you, Thomas. Okay, any other thoughts on the amount specifically?
And about how many grantees?
Uh,
Like this past round, for example?
So this past round, did I share the news release with you all? I realize I might not have shared it. We did the announcement of the Arts Bloom awardees. There are 12, so we have the most awardees that we've had any year, which is great. I'll forward the news release to you all. Um, yeah, because it's
Yeah,
always
because
even given amount, it's hard to tell how many because we have the different funding amounts. We have 5, 10, or 20,000. So sometimes more doesn't necessarily mean more awardees, right? If the ones that score the ones that are selected and score the best are $20,000 requests. Although I will say the last couple rounds, I think review panelists have felt more comfortable or have wanted to award more than we'd be able to given the requests. And so we've actually asked some people if they could do a similar project with a reduced amount so that we could award more people. So I think since we have kind of our feet under us as a program, we feel more comfortable kind of making that request of people to be able to award more folks. I don't like asking people to reduce the amount they requested for. I really don't, but Yeah.
It's the reality of grant making. But setting a higher overall amount available gives you that flexibility, whether you want to award higher grants or award more grantees. So
Yeah.
I'm also in favor of having more, but as Thomas said, making sure we're taking into account the maintenance component of the overall funding.
That's great. So I related to that, I will say our initial goal has been to set aside an amount for public art maintenance in the amount of 10% of however much we have allocated to capital art. So does everyone still feel like that's a good goal? Okay. Okay, awesome. Okay. So with that, unless anyone has any other last words on that topic, I want to move on to stay talking about Arts Bloom, but talk about a couple ideas came up in the last year for potential changes we could make. And so I want to bring those up for discussion. The first, as you all know, Arts Bloom has two equity-focused goals. One is to reach historically underserved residents in the city, and the other is to provide paid opportunities for local artists and or small arts organizations in the city. And so one idea that has come up is the idea of should we set a threshold for what we mean when we say small arts organizations? And I know when this idea came up, I think both Amanda and Annette brought up specific thresholds that they have seen out in the world. I think I heard $1 million annual funding operations budget and 500,000. I think those were the two numbers that I heard. So if any of you all want to talk about that, your feelings on that, I do want to just, before we dive into that conversation, say that we have these two Arts Bloom goals, and we don't require that projects meet both of them. When projects meet both of them, they typically score better, but they just have to meet at least one of them. And so setting a small arts organization threshold wouldn't necessarily completely preclude larger organizations from applying, right? If they could show that they're meeting the goals in other ways. Does that make sense? So I'm kind of throwing that out there.
I was wondering, and we maybe not have this information right at our fingertips, but I'm just wondering, just in general, what have the operating budgets been for the majority maybe of um, organizations or people, whatever, who apply? Like that might be something interesting for us to look at to really have a little bit more um, well, informed, I guess, um, way of thinking about this. Because I agree that the $500,000 or the $1 million thing is a good, that's good. It's just that I wonder what the reality really is. Like, I just, so that's my thought.
Yeah, that's a good, I have no, we haven't required that as in the past. You know, people haven't had to say what their annual operating budget is. They've had to include a budget for the project, right? Like if they're requesting $10,000, they have to show us how they would use that funding, but they haven't had to say
Oh,
what their
really?
operating budget is.
Oh,
We haven't asked that. So I
okay.
have no idea.
Oh, no,
And
I
I
just
don't,
assumed we were asking that.
yeah, I know. I think you probably assume that because it's probably something that is part of grant
Usually,
applications.
yeah.
I'm not familiar with that world.
Monroe County just
So I
released
think,
its small and mid-sized arts grant application like this week, and that is one of the things that they ask on it. So maybe you're
Yeah.
thinking about the county's application.
yeah. And BJ, do you know? Because one question I had was sometimes in conversations, we've talked about how the city and county are kind of our funding buckets. I know that you're no longer with the county, but you have such insight about it. But how our funding is um, complementary to one another because the county focuses on this mid-size and maybe large, and Arts Bloom is maybe an opportunity for smaller size. So what do you know what the mid-size, is that true? Like county is mid-size and large size, right? For the most part?
So I can give you the my recollection from when I was there. I can't say if any of this has changed. There
Yeah.
are specific called out organizations that receive funding in the county's budget. This is all very accessible. So if you go to the county's budget webpage, you can look up the budget. It's in the I think it's arts education section, and it will list the organizations and the amount of money that they receive directly. Those are the larger scale organizations. And again, if you have any concerns with this, please direct it to the county and not to me, for I am no longer with the county. But but then within that allocation are two different pots of money that people can apply for. One is for special events. Special events applications have a certain set of requirements. If you go on the county's website and simply search special events grant, it'll take you to that website that will enumerate each of the application's requirements. Similarly, the mid-sized arts grant, that's defined in the budget as well, with the sizes of budgets that organizations can apply for. I think it is a minimum of 50,000, and I'm not sure what the maximum number is. It's probably somewhere in the ballpark of 3 to 4 million. So that is that's a pretty wide range. I know they lowered it. It used to be 100,000, but it was kind of missing out on some of the smaller organizations that were doing a lot of work but didn't really have staff. So this is where it is now, and I believe those applications are due maybe August 21st this year. It seems like a shorter time period than usual. It's like a 3-week period, but those just came out, and I think that those are the parameters. You can read all of the parameters on the county's website if you just search mid-sized arts grant.
Thank you, BJ.
It is very interesting that they're calling mid-size between 50,000 and 4 million. That's quite a wide range.
Yep, that was because we wanted to make it as expansive as we could. That was a direct response to artist feedback who wanted it to be lower, but then there were some organizations that when you look at a large scale organization like the RPO, or you look at a large scale organization like Jiva, or things that maybe the Museum and Science Center, places like that, who had budgets above that, we tried to pick at the time budget. We tried to pick something that would be as inclusive as possible so that people could qualify.
Okay. Well, without knowing the budgets of former applicants, how do we feel about setting some kind of threshold for what we mean by small arts organization?
Well, I mean, I think if you're talking small organizations, I think $500,000 a year is probably too high, to be honest with you. Um, I think you'd have to go maybe to 300,000 as the minimal, or whatever, the lower end. Because there's going to be a lot of organizations that don't have a budget of $500,000 actually, especially places that don't have staff. It's just,
Yeah.
I think once you hit 2 to 3 staff, you're probably looking at getting into that $300,000 range. If you're going to have that much paid staff, you're probably doing programming or things with grants or things, maybe money that comes in. But that would assume full-time staff. So if you're doing part-time staff,
right.
volunteer hours.
Yeah.
Heather, this is Sarah. I'm just wondering, with the applicants that come in, are we cross-referencing those with organizations that get funding from special events?
Yeah, so it's actually an eligibility requirement or criteria that anyone who's funded through special events, anything funded through special
Isn't
events
eligible.
isn't eligible for Arts Bloom.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well this can be to be continued because if you remember, we have budget planning discussion part 2 in October. And I think in the interim, we are going to do some research too on what are the kind of small organization thresholds that we see elsewhere. But it sounds like, yeah, we're thinking lower than 500,000 potentially even. But we can continue this conversation. Feel free to email us with any other ideas or if something pops for you in the next couple months that you read about some kind of similar threshold, please feel free to forward it to us.
Yeah, I think I'll do a little digging myself actually, and just see if I can get a little more info.
That'd be great. And I mean, as part of this, maybe it becomes, it seems like the one concrete thing we have from this conversation right now is that we start asking people as part of the application, Arts Bloom application, we ask them if they are a group, right? Because we get a lot of people that are applying just as individuals, but if they're applying as a group, what their operating budget is annually. We can add that to our application easily.
Yeah, I do see that Amanda mentioned that under $1 million, she's seen under $1 million budgets count as small awards. But I think I'll just do a little local investigating on that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay. Okay, so to be continued as usual for budget planning season. Sorry, I wanted to sing that. And then I'm like, I need to save everyone from hearing me sing. Okay. So the other thing that has come up as a potential change is we have for the 4 rounds, we've had funding categories, funding amounts, not categories, funding amounts. So people could apply for $5, $10, or $20,000. And the idea of changing that so that people could apply for whatever their budget is, but say it's a $20,000 max, has come up. And so I wanted to bring that up as an idea for you all, how you feel about that. Yeah. Do you think I'm especially curious to hear your take on this because as people that have applied for funding for different grants and funding, have you found specific funding amounts helpful or not? Yeah, how do you all feel about it?
Well, I mean, I just remember, the former Arts Council. We had that for a while, the 5, 10, or however what it was, ever was it? I don't remember the amounts, but then got rid of that. And I think it actually made the playing field a little bit more equitable in some ways, because people applied for, say they needed 6 instead of 5. You know what I mean? They would, or whatever it was. And so it just seemed to me that that was a more realistic way of doing things. I mean, you still had a cap, but and you could still, and the review board could still go through and say, well, can you do this for, you say you need 10,000, but could you really do this for 8,000? Because couldn't you get this from something or whatever? So I mean, it just seemed like it just was dealing in a much more reality kind of place rather than either reaching for something that you need to get, or I'm going to pull back because that's the cap of this. I just think it just makes more sense. That's the real world. I mean, that's just how things are. I mean, one of the I think positives about having the cap, the 5, 10, 20, is it does give parameters for people, which I think when people are writing budgets, that's a really important thing to have. Whether we impose that on them or not is another issue, I guess. But my feeling is to open this and then have the cap where it is, but that we allow people to, apply for what they need. And then there's a panel there to like figure that out. But I think it makes a lot of sense.
That's helpful. Anyone else want to share thoughts on that idea?
Just having been a panelist, I feel like the 5, 10, and 20 amounts help to frame for the applicants the scale of the project that they're looking at, and we could really analyze the applications based on the scale and the amount of the request. So from the panelist perspective, I found that I think to be very, very useful.
Hmm.
I'm trying to think back from the applicant perspective, although we would certainly be characterized as one of the larger organizations that has received Arts Bloom funding. So, um, yeah, I don't know. I sort of find that helpful guidance, I think.
Do you think, James, if it were open, but then the materials that we gave panelists, we clearly indicated like these are folks that applied for between up to 5,000 and these folks, like we kind of separated that for people so that people could kind of understand scale before they dived into, the details of the proposal. Do you think that would be like an equivalent or is that not helpful?
It could be. I guess it depends on how it's worded. I would want to just be careful about adding confusion because
Yeah.
when you give the specific numbers, I think it just pretty clearly lays things out for people. I think the more specificity can exist in any application process, the better off it is. The fewer questions coming to you.
I have to say too, James, and you and the other people on AC3 have been panelists. I think the biggest challenge we have related to that, reviewing Arts Bloom proposals, is that it is so open, and so it can be really challenging because inevitably at some point you're judging proposals against one another, and when they're very different, right? Because it's so open, projects wise it can be challenging because you are comparing apples to oranges, right? Um, and I think the way that panelists have kind of resolved that is there ends up being a lot of times, um, assuming like quality of proposal, quality of like the concept, and people connecting with a concept and thinking that it's like culturally relevant and an important support for people and all those things. It, I feel like I find that panelists want to find like a balance of things. Like they don't want to they don't want to award all of the proposals that are for one type of proposal, right? Like they want to see a variety of things that are awarded in a given award cycle. And that's, I think, helpful, but it can be challenging
Yeah, I
because it's
think
so
as
open.
long as there's, a variety of voice on the panels, I mean, I felt when I was on the panel, we really wrestled with some questions and some applications, but I think ultimately felt really, really positive about the outcome of our recommendations through that process. But we do need to make sure that there is a variety of voice,
Yeah.
so that multiple perspectives are being brought to the table with the applicants.
Yeah. Thanks, James.
I had a question in the two different kind of like almost like models of structure. Uh, Specifically, Thomas, in your experience, did you find that you reached more applicants with one versus the other? Like, did you get more awardees and whatnot in one or the other?
Um, my memory is that once we got rid of the sort of level things, we got more diverse applicants. I should say, I don't know if we got more applicants, but just um, you know, I think that the diversity of uh, projects and artists grew. Um, Now, whether or not that really had anything to do with changing the levels of I'm not really sure. I mean, I think, James brings up an important point that from the panelist perspective, especially, I do think it certainly does help to have this sort of structure in place when, in a sense, negotiating, who's going to get what. So, I mean, it's another sort of, it breaks things into levels in a way. I mean, so it's just, discussing the proposals, I think it certainly is helpful. My reason for bringing up the idea of, and I don't know who initially brought up that idea of getting rid of the 5, 10, 20 thing, but hearing that, I thought I remembered how we did that with the Arts Council, and it was a way of welcoming, in a sense, other. I don't even know how to put that into words exactly, but it did sort of open up something, I think. And so that's all I'm really, addressing there. There are pros and cons for, both ways of doing it. So I'm not really wedded to one way or the other. I just want us to think about them before. And quite frankly, we could go back and forth. One year we do that, and then we could change back. If it doesn't work, we go back to something else. I mean,
Yeah.
we might not really know how it's going to work until we try it. So there's no reason that we can't try something else. And then if it doesn't work well, or if we find it's better to do it another way, then we can do it another way. I mean, it doesn't, we don't have to do it like this forever or one way or the other. And, it may be good for us to experiment and find out what works in this community at this time,
Yeah.
What you could try is saying the maximum award is 20,000, and then have a question: if you receive less than the 20,000 requested, how would it change your project? And that way, that gives you the information you need, and it gives you the flexibility to make different awards of 5, 10, or 20. But having that additional bit of information helps you know how, how the grantee would have to scale down what they were going to do if they received less.
Yeah, I probably should also, just putting it on my non-for-profit hat. If I saw a grant that said up to 20,000, I'm gonna find a way to use $20,000. So, I mean, there is that. People are gonna, yeah, well, you can get up to 20,000. So yeah, let's
Or
go
you
for
can
that.
offer a range.
Or you could offer
You
range.
offer a range.
That's what I was
So you
kind
could
of
say
wondering
5
if
to 20. Yeah.
I was kind of wondering if you experience like just getting a lot more big budget requests, meaning you serve less people kind of thing, you know?
It's interesting. I think I think that my inclination is that the number of applicants, the percentage of applicants who apply for 20,000 wouldn't change because people already can apply for $20,000. So those people they're gonna do that anyway. Um, I would like to think that it would maybe give people a chance to not, like I've seen a couple proposals where people will say, I'm applying for 5,000 because they have to check one of those boxes, but then their budget is actually for 3,900. And it makes me wonder like how many people are actually like inflating their budgets because they want to do this project. They don't necessarily need that much money. I know on the flip side, you have people that will ask for more money than they need anyway, but I just wonder about that. And I think that we don't want to create a situation where we award all $3,000 projects because we literally would not have the capacity to manage that many contracts in one fiscal year if we were doing, we were to do 150,000 and we're awarding all $3,000 projects. Like, I can't do the quick math on that, but it would be a lot of contracts to manage and we couldn't do it. But I don't know that we would have that problem because I still think there's going to be certain organizations that are going to apply for $20,000 amounts. And I guess it's initially the benefit of having the funding categories for me early on was thinking they're round amounts, so we can kind of Tetris. We would have 150,000, so we can kind of Tetris the right amount in there. And that actually, the reality is that doesn't work because, well, actually the next highest scoring proposal is for 10,000, but we only have 5,000 left. Like it's always going to be a little bit imperfect. So maybe we just open it up and see what happens. I like the idea of, yeah, that's kind of what we've been doing a little bit is experimenting anyway, to, learning along the way. So maybe this is something we try and we figure out, we see how it goes. I do like the consideration, James, around panelists and how that impacts panelists because review is tough for Arts Bloom. We have to do the first round review to even narrow it down to a feasible amount for the second round review panel. And we got 78 applications this round, which is the most that we've gotten ever. And I imagine that number is going to stay high or get higher in the next couple years. So, which is my plug for, hey, you all should volunteer to be on the review panel, the next one. Anyway, okay, we're nearing the end of our time. This has been a
Can I-
great conversation. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Sarah.
Sorry. I had two questions, and I can't remember if we talked about these, but one question, and I don't know how maybe others on the call who've been part of granting organizations could describe this, but like how to gauge like a startup or a new organization's ability to manage a budget, maybe dictating or determining how much money they could receive. So, and I don't know how you judge that or, how you would, but I think we did a little bit of that when we were like looking through budgets and being like, okay, that's a really high amount for like a communications budget or like outreach or something like that. But that's just one thought I had. And then another thought, or just and less for this, but more for the capital projects. But in the long run for this group and the CAT team to think through when a proposal goes beyond the allotted amount and we want to complete that project, so we find the funding, but how will we manage that in the future, and how will we somehow involve in the criteria for receiving funding some kind of stopgap, because we're not always going to have additional funding to put towards projects that go over budget. So just like making that note as something to think about in the future.
Yeah. Does anyone, yeah, have any responses or thoughts on Sarah's first point?
I mean, when we did the county application, that's exactly what we did, and it took us like 9 to 10 months to put it together. So we tried to come up with what we thought metrics would be that would indicate whether or not organizations had capacity or administrative space or administrative knowledge. So it was things like, do they have bylaws? Do they have like, just to see like the types of things that they had that maybe indicated a level of organization. And I think that was like, that I think the county's application, anyone who's like done it, I think it is a good model. I think it is pretty accessible, not a ton of like overwhelming information, and it is all like relevant information. But that is specifically for organizations and not individual artists.
Any other thoughts on that? We are, yeah, excuse me, nearing the end of time. I'm not drinking enough water. Everyone stay hydrated. Shawnee, listening to your voice is like making my throat raspy. Yeah. Um, I know we're nearing the end of time, but thank you, Antonietta. Bye. Does anyone want to bring up any ideas for our next discussion? Any ideas that you've thought of that we can discuss for next time related to Arts Bloom? And any changes or focuses or whatever that you want to see with Arts Bloom? Do you want to put those ideas out there or not? Otherwise, I think we can say thank you all for being here. I hope you get a chance to enjoy or have gotten a chance to enjoy some of the good weather we're having today. And we'll see. Would say see you in 2 months, but probably see you before then if you're on one of the subcommittees. We'll follow up with subcommittee information. Thanks, everyone.